Hi, everyone. This is Tammy, Houston-based attorney and host of Ask Tammy Live, where we discuss the best ways to establish your business, protect your name, and keep your profits. Today's question of the day is, how do I protect my podcast name? Isn't that a great question? Because every day there's somebody else who's popping up with a new podcast, and I'm here for it. I'm an educator. Let's go ahead and share knowledge, share information. But the question is, when I come up with this brilliant podcast name, how do I protect it from other people seeing my brilliance and copying it, right? That's the question many of you are asking. Well, let's dive right in. Okay, so when it comes to protecting your name on a podcast, I was reading online today. I saw something that somebody said because I was curious about what people were putting out there. And someone was like, oh, you have nothing to worry about as long as nobody else is using the name. That's false, okay? That's false. So let's just unpack that a little bit. If you're trying to protect your podcast name, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do, really, really simple, is be unique. Right? If you're copying somebody else's name and then you're trying to protect it and create exclusivity when you copied somebody else's name, that's inherently not going to work. Just off of plain logic, because somebody else has it, you can't be exclusive to something that you have copied. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about a few things that people typically would say, but I don't think it's enough. Folks will tell you also to make sure that nobody else is using the social media handles. So that means going on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and making sure that nobody else has this podcast name. All of those things are helpful because what that helps you to establish is that nobody else is using it, which gives you first time rights, which is really important when it comes to the legal side of things, right? So go ahead and check out those social domain names, but your social media handles don't tell you the whole story, okay? And so that is not sufficient enough to really protect it. And when I say protecting your podcast name, what do I mean? I mean being able to say that this is my name and I have exclusive rights to it and I can tell other people don't use it. It also means that I can use this without fear of having somebody say, oh, you copied me, right? Or you're infringing on me. This is about being able to use it without getting a cease and desist letter. So that's what I mean when I say protecting your podcast name, okay? All right, so we've talked about social media handles. We talked about, oh, nobody else is using it, so I'm fine. Not so much. Another thing you'll hear people say is domain name. So that means domain is like your website address. So going to www.mypodcast.com, whatever your podcast name is, and seeing, does anybody else have that? People will search things like GoDaddy, Squarespace, Google, see Google domains, see what's out there. That is, again, another good step. It's another good indicator whether anybody is using it, but it's not a way to really establish exclusive protection. Okay. The way that I would recommend, this is what I would tell my clients, this is what I've told my clients, is that you need to register a trademark, because all of those other things that we discussed do not give you exclusive rights to that name. What does that mean? That means that if you decide to create this podcast and you don't register this trademark, somebody else could claim that they used it first. In the legal world, what's important is uniqueness, exclusivity, dominion when it comes to that name, being the only one who's using it, and when it's being established. Another important thing for exclusivity is really making sure that whatever your mark, your name, your trademark is associated with is in a unique category of goods. So what does that mean? That means that when you're talking about different topics and you're creating this podcast, there's different classes from the trademark world, from the legal world. There are different categories of goods and services that could be provided. And the way that trademark world works is that each category, right, people can establish a name in that. So let me give you a quick example. You can have Delta Faucet and Delta Airplanes. Why? Because they're two very different categories of goods. There's no potential overlap in those two areas. When it comes to your podcast, right? So podcast is its own, there's a category that we tend to use when it comes to podcasting. But the other thing is that you're discussing actual matters that may fall into another bucket. That's where I really think it's important for you to establish a trademark, because let's say you don't do that research and you don't know what's existing in these other categories of goods, and you're talking about things like clothes, or you're talking about entrepreneurship, or you're talking about leadership, or you're talking about kitchenware, or you're talking about something that falls into one of these other categories, and you haven't done the research to see if there's anything similar or related to it. It is still possible, even if there's no podcast that has been created pertaining to this, it is still possible for someone in one of those categories to come back and say, hey, this podcast is really closely related to what I have. And there could be confusion from a consumer perspective. Someone could hop onto this podcast and think that I was the one who produced it, Or I could be missing sales because this podcaster is detracting people from my brand. All of this boils down to the ways that you identify yourself as a source of a good or a service. And because it's about that type of branding, it's talking about identification. It is important to get the law on your side. And that's why my biggest thing for you is to register that trademark. Get with an experienced attorney. Allow them to do the necessary research to make sure that there is no one else who's already in that ecosystem for you, right? To make sure that there's no potential overlap, that nobody's going to hop out of the woodworks and say, oh, this actually is really close to me, right? And then establish your own rights. Be the person who puts the world on notice because you have a trademark that is there. This is so powerful for you with regards to the personal branding of your trademark and of your podcast. You want the world to know that you take this thing seriously, that you mean it, right? And that you understand that you own and offer unique value. Okay. So I'm going to really hone in on you registering your trademark. Yes, go ahead and get the domain name. Yes, search the social media handles. Do all of those things. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying that's not enough. Register the trademark. That's how you're going to be able to have that exclusive protection where you're going to be able to say, hey, you can't copy me, or say, hey, I've been here before. Okay. All right. So if you found this to be useful, there's so much more on this page. Go ahead and subscribe, check these things out. But then also, if you're trying to establish your business, and let's say you're doing a podcasting business, you're going to want to understand what the legal side of running your business is. So I want to recommend our Start Right Action Checklist. I'm going to put a link to that down below. I want you to go ahead and download that and allow that to kind of help you with that foundational piece. I see myself as a foundations expert when it comes to legal things, really helping people establish strong legal foundations. And so that's what this was created for. Get the guide, get the checklist, use it, allow it to help you really start strong. Additionally, if you want to follow me on all the different social media places, TOS Legal is the handle. I'm there on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all over the place, right? So follow me, find out what we're doing, get information, get help. And that's all I have for you. I will talk to you soon. Okay? Bye.